Welcome to Miss Win Checking In, the space where creativity meets healing. Here, we explore the path of mindful expression through the lens of writing, wellness, and soulful storytelling. Take a moment to pause and ask yourself, how are you feeling right now? If you're watching this on YouTube, drop an emoji in the comments to represent how you're feeling. And then let's check in at the end. Let's take a deep breath, tune in, and prepare to create from within. Hey, it's Miss Win checking in, and I'm back with another meaningful episode. Today, we are talking about self expression and mental health. I have special guest Olesha here with me today. Olesha, what do you know about self expression and mental health?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me. The first thing I know is that it has to be done in community. Like you have to have a support group to honor who you are and to keep you accountable when you fall off the wagon sometimes. And also understanding that you have to give yourself grace because we do make mistakes and sometimes we fall back on things that we know are not good for us. And we have to give ourselves that grace to know that it's okay to start over or try again.
Yeah. Why community though? So many people are like, I'm in my isolation era. I'm on my own. I'm doing my thing. Da 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 da. Like, where does help me out here? Help me understand your perspective on that.
I think about it in the way of village. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. I think
Mm.
of it in the same way. It takes a village in order for you to be your best, or I like to call it your favorite version of yourself. I think
Mm.
of it in a way of how we think about like motherhood and womanhood when we
Mm.
have these rites of passages and how they are the women that are there are supposed to guide you and lead you into the next chapter of your life. And when you
Mm.
don't have that, it almost feels like something is broken, and so you need those women to be there for you, to talk about their own experiences, to allow you to understand that this is normal. Feeling this way might be
Yeah.
normal. It's okay, before you kind of crash out, because they can be there to guide you and to lead you and to say, hey, I'm going to give you what my experience was. It may not be the same as you, but just to give you a heads up, like this may happen or these things do happen. And it's okay, because if you happen to trip up, we'll be there to guide you and to love you and to make sure that, we keep a soft space for you.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was talking to my dad last night, and I won't share his particular story because I'm trying to get him to write it
Uh-huh.
with me. But he was talking about how there was a time where he was struggling with his mental health. And he said, my family calls me Ree. He said, Ree, he said it was my mom and my sister that
Mm-hmm.
really helped me. He said, but I did have to ask for help. He said, but my mom and my sister helped me. And I said, well, Dad, you were raised in love. You
Yeah.
had a community to
Yeah.
call on. I said, him and I said, oftentimes we find ourselves in spaces where we're around people who did not have that love. We're around people who, because of life circumstances, there's a lot of trauma there for them, from what I see, just from my observation. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, who do they have to call on? I said, because honestly, I said, I don't know if I want to be included in some of these villages just because I'd be like, I said, Dad, my role is to listen. I'm
That's
just here to listen and hold your hand and hold space. Because he was like, can you offer some Dad, I ain't got no advice. I have no words right now. I said, right now I'm in my point in life where I can offer space. I said, so that would be my role in the village. But like, what about those people? How do they come to finding their community or even being awakened or aware that, hey, you doing it by yourself is no longer working for you, and maybe you need to get into a community. But I also think that there's a block there of shame and guilt that,
yeah.
oh, if I go into a community and I share, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, then there's going to be shame. They're going to look at me crazy or whatever. Like, can we talk about that?
Yeah, I think that a major part, especially, being a Black woman, and honestly, how Black church is a major part of how community was grown for us, right?
Mm.
And so from that space, there is some shame, especially for me. Like I have clients, I'm a boudoir photographer. So a lot of my clients are older Black women. And so the conversations that we have about shame, about not wearing certain things, like not wearing red lipstick, which is something I love to do all the time,
Yeah.
red nails, like the shame that they felt about their bodies, especially being called fast, which for me is definitely a slur for young girls. And all of that that comes with it, and then on top of that being Black, it's like it's a lot. And so, and our, you know, our male counterparts also have to contend with how they are seen and heard, or not seen and heard, but also what does that mean for them in this patriarchal society, and how they create community within those spaces. And I know for them that could be extremely hard as well, because they don't want to be viewed as to something or to this, like you said, and the shame that comes with that, but knowing that they need it. Like, you need friends. You need friends. You need those things. And so I think sometimes you just have to have those spaces to say, I am tired. Like, I'm tired. And I think one thing that happens is when people get so tired of just feeding into, I have to be this way, I have to look this way, I have to sound this way. That's when sometimes they sort of go out and look for a community. They go out and they try to find someone. They go out and try to say, I'm tired. Someone else I know has done this. So let me go see if they are able to give me what I need in this time in my life. And I think that a lot of times that could be good or bad, depending on what community you go to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So I think a lot of people have to not get to rock bottom, but they have to get to that point where they're like, I know I'm not the only one. And if I'm not the only one, someone else has to be in this space, and I just need to go and find them. I don't really care about the shame. I don't really care about how I look. I just need a space where I can just be, and that should be enough. So I think that that's one thing that allows people to just get to that point, is like, I'm tired. Like, I need this. I can't do this by myself anymore. I can't call on my family because they're not going to understand. So I have to find my chosen family in order to be okay and be enough. And I think for Black women, like, there have been studies about Black women in this, and that we do this extremely well. Because if not us, then who? We know that, like, we have to know that if our sisters don't have us, then there's something wrong. Like, there's something extremely wrong when we don't have that community. So I think that's one thing that we do extremely well.
It's create community. Absolutely. Oh my God. I'm thinking about all the women in my circle. Holy cow. One of them texted me earlier. We were talking about a book we're getting ready to do. And months ago, I said, I'm so grateful for sisterhood. It's always a Black woman just coming through for me, whether it be with prayer, telling me, girl, your hair out of place, or girl, get you some new glasses. What? There was this lady, I was just in that survival mode, kind of like you were saying, just showing up. I had just got a job. What? I was toe up from the flow up, did not care. Did not care. I'm just here to work. Okay. But not really knowing that this job would end up being a community for me, because this is where I'm at most of the day.
Listen.
And just the women on that job, one little lady, and I always talk about her all the time. She looks like Felicia Rashad, so I always tell her, "Hey, Miss Felicia," and we just kind of crack up, and it's just love. It's just love. Don't know her from a can of paint, but just that's auntie. That's auntie, older Black lady. And she told me when she see me, she said, "Girl, your glasses." Now my glasses were broke. Like, literally, I was missing this piece, and I was wearing them like,
oh no,
like this.
Sometimes
okay, like, if you can imagine,
you gotta do what you gotta
look,
do.
I gotta see, and I gotta be at work. So this is how I'm showing up. She said, "Girl, if you don't get you some new glasses," she said, "I bet you can afford some glasses now." I said, "You know what? You're right." And I got glasses. We had to take a mandatory time off. And I came back and I had on some new glasses. And she said, "I see you." I said, "What you think?" She said, "I see you." I said, and I had to pull her aside. I said, "You know what?" I said, "Thank you so much." You know what I'm saying? I said, "You didn't say too much. You didn't go too crazy. You didn't go hard on me. You weren't fussing at me. It was, girl, I'm sure you can afford some new glasses." And that was like, she came at me with love. Like I said, I don't know the lady, but that's how we connected. And I told her, I said, "You were a part of my transformation, going from, kind of being in that caterpillar or even being in that transition phase. I said, you watch me come from a caterpillar to a butterfly. I said, now I got new glasses. I said, baby, I even got two pair. I said, I got two
Listen,
pair of new glasses,
come
Miss
on.
Felicia. Okay. She said, yes, ma'am. I said, okay, yes, ma'am. And so absolutely having, even if it's just one other person, right? Because I think sometimes, like, okay, you get tired. And I think about, okay, how did I even get here to this space? And yeah, you identified it. That tired, that man, I'm tired of living in this cycle. I'm tired of
Mhm.
whatever it is. And just that
Yeah.
is like the pivot right there where, okay, now I need to do something different. And okay, yeah, and that can be the doorway to, okay, let me get in community. I've done this by myself. I don't like the results. Let me see what it's like. And then I think it's important to say that you have options. If one
Yes.
community don't work, that's okay. You on to the next one, and until you find your people. But it does take courage, and so I do give people grace, and I'm sensitive to that. Is it takes a little bit of courage to do that.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it paused.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, wow. So what about you? Have you ever had an experience then where you were going through your own personal healing journey? And how did that impact you?
Oh, yes. Hell yes.
Mm.
I can say even right now, the person that I am now is not the person that I was shit 2 years ago, a year
Yeah.
ago, maybe even 6 months ago. For me, it started in 2017. I had a major life change. And so from there, I was like, okay, now what? Like, what is this that you are now given the task to start over? And
Mm-hmm.
you're starting from rock bottom. And so now what? Like, what are you going to do? And I knew I had the community, I had friends, amazing family members. And then I was like, okay, but you have to save yourself
Yeah.
because the way that you are and the way that you've been is not working. And so now you have to choose, do you want to continue to wallow in, grief and despair, or do you want to move on to what healing is? And I always say you never truly
Mm-hmm.
heal, you just learn to
Mm-hmm.
cope with what you are dealing with. And you don't really get over it. You just, your body sorts of gets into that space. It's like, okay, we are safe now. Like
Yes.
you might remember it, but you're now safe, so you can deal with it in a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it was really, what is it that you want to do? Like it's wide open. It is, you could be whoever you want to
Yeah.
be in this space. So you get to choose. That's why I say not your best version, but your favorite version. Like you get to now choose what that looks like
Mm-hmm.
for you. And for me, it was I call it the reinvention, and I've gone through maybe 7 now. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
every time it's something new, I get to learn new things about myself. And I get to also understand there are people in my life that may not be the people that are supposed to go with me to this next space. So I get to change that up and still do it with love. And still, some of them I do with love. Some of them will be like, goodbye. But some of them I will
Yeah.
do with love. But I will say that helped me to really identify with what is it that I want for myself? And how
Mm-hmm.
can I show up for myself in a way that is loving, that is careful, that is soft, and that represents the version of me that I really want to be. And that was I'm not gonna lie, it was a big undertaking, but I am better for it because I love me. Like I love this version of myself that I am now. I'm not worried about things. I'm like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And I'm not worried about, people who are telling you that you can't do certain things. I'm like, okay, maybe for you, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But for me, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it because if not
Mm-hmm.
me, then who? And I just get out
Yeah.
there and I do it. It may not work. I'm not going to lie, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I try. At least I try, and I don't see it as a failure. I just see it as, something that I can use down the line. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was, I would say, was 2017 was like, all right, here we go. Let's get it done.
Yeah, let's do something else. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to talk more so about like self-expression, right?
Mhm.
Because I think I know for me, one of the things I've been working on is I said years ago, I said, I want to have perfect self expression. I want to be able to express myself better. I think that there were times when I purpose like wasn't talking
Yeah.
because I was afraid of like the confrontation. Like I was afraid of confronting things and I was managing other people's energy and
Mhm.
emotions and found out that was connected to trauma. But in this space now, I purposely be like, my not speaking is not coming from that, not coming from not wanting confrontation. It's so I just sometimes I don't have the energy. And I honestly be like, I come up blank. You know, when my dad was like, "Can you offer some advice?" Blank. Dad, no. Actually, and it's been like that. I said, actually, no, nothing is coming up for me. I said, I think I'm just in a space right now where it's just for me to hold space for others. I said, I can hold your hand if you're going through something. I can pat you on the back. I can be here if you need to cry, if you don't want to be alone. That's what I can do. And I said, sometimes and it's so weird. I was listening to a YouTube video about stoicism, and it said sometimes silence can also be a way to express yourself. And I'm learning that. I'm like, oh, okay. Now that I'm talking about this, I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? Silence is a way to express yourself. And I was like, Dad, sometimes it just takes me a while to process stuff. I said, maybe I might have a word for you tomorrow. Today is tomorrow, and I don't got nothing. And so it's just
I love that. Today's tomorrow, and I don't got nothing.
I got nothing else. Do you have something? I ain't got no. I don't have nothing to tell you. So I want to talk about that, expressing yourself and just having the words, not having the words, all of that. What are your thoughts?
I think one of the things that I say when people say and do what I like to say stupid shit,
Yeah.
I'm always like, wow, that's crazy. Because there is so much that you can say, and that's like, wow, that's crazy. And then they
Yeah.
also are like, okay, so was that a good or was that like
Mm-hmm.
you know how black people be like, if you like it, I love it.
Yeah. So what
That
is
is
that?
very much like that's
Okay.
for you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same thing. Like, wow, that's crazy because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
obviously you really don't want me to tell you what I think. Because if I tell you, and I've done this previously, you didn't listen. So now
Right.
I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Wow, you thought that with me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I am that person. Like I like to say a healer.
Mm-hmm.
I actively listen to people when they speak to me. I want to know what it
Mm-hmm.
is that is happening for you. And because I always say I have an old soul, I feel like I've been here for forever. And it's just like next lifetime I'll be a tree. That's just how it is. Like I got all the
Okay.
stuff I need. I'm at that point right now. And
Yeah.
so I feel like when people come to me and they ask me questions and I don't know what it is, I'm able to just give them information, just be like, this is what it is. And I
Mm.
always think about it from a space of if I was talking to a younger version of that person, how would they want they in order to feel safe? For me, it's always about safety. Like, am I in the space where this person feels safe with me? And if not, then I may just tell them something light and airy. That's just what it is. But for other
Yeah.
people, because I hate when people say brutal honesty, because it's there's no such thing about telling someone the truth and then being brutal. There's no reason for that. And so
Yeah.
I try to give that same that grace to them that I would want for myself. Like you could tell me anything and I'd be like, wow, that's crazy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate you. So I feel the same way. Like I want to give people that same exact space to hear what I have to say. And some people will do that. Like I have a friend who I actually gave her information, and she stopped talking to me for a little bit because it was true. And
Mm.
then when she came back, she's like, I needed to hear that, but at that moment, I was pissed. I was like, I know. That's why I
Yeah.
gave you space. And you didn't need to
Mm.
hear from me because I felt that. And she was like, but I needed to hear it. And I changed some things And that happens a lot. And I'm like, I'm not trying to hurt you, but I am trying to
Mhm.
get you to understand that knowing what I know, what I've researched, what I've read, because I'm an avid reader,
Mm.
this ain't going to end up how you want it to. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's just, it really isn't. And I wish that it was something different, but it's not. But if
Mhm.
you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to tell you I told you so. I'm just going to be like, what do you need? Like, what do you need at this moment that I can support you on whatever it is in this journey? If it's silence, if it's
Mhm.
food, if it's I just need to take a walk, if it's I just need you just to give me a hug. Like, those are the type of things that I always want to support people in, even when I've given them advice and they didn't take it. And I'm just like, I see the writing on the wall, girl. But if you like it, I love
Yeah, I love it. If you like it, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that operating like that, I'm thinking, how can people benefit from this? Like if you can kind of operate from that position in
it.
relationships with those that you care about, maybe that's not for everybody, but at
Mhm.
least those that you care about, and you can say, "Hey, what do you need?" And because I find myself sometimes around people that if I'm telling them I'm going through something, automatically they make it about them. And it's like, I don't need that. I actually don't need to hear about your trauma. Right now, I'm trying to vent and express myself for my own mental health. And now you're coming back at me with your trauma. And now we're just trauma
Mhm.
together
Mhm.
and nothing has helped. So I think that that's really important, and people can maybe learn from that. Is if
Yeah.
someone's sharing something with you and you care about them, maybe just pause and ask them, well, what do you need? Like, what do you need right now? How can I help you? And I remember even having a friend who asked me that, well, what do you need? And it was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what do you say to that? If someone doesn't know what they need, do you list some things, or what is that next step? What do you think?
I think the biggest thing is just to be there.
Yeah.
Like, just to be there. It's always weird to me when people go through like a very traumatic event and then people like call me if you need me. And
Yeah.
most people will not. They just won't. One,
Yeah.
it could be they don't want to burden the other person because they
Mm.
know that person has a life to live. Um, and sometimes it's just, I don't know what to say to you, so I don't want to be around you because I don't want to say the wrong thing. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it really is the person just needs someone there. They just need someone, just that body there. Like they call, body doubling for people with
Yeah.
ADHD. It's the same thing. You just need to
Mm-hmm.
be there. Like there could be times where the person can say, hey, do you want to go to, even though we boycott Target, you want to
Mm-hmm.
go to Target right now just to go. Like you don't really need
Yeah.
to say anything. They sometimes just need a sense of whatever normal is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes is just for you to be there. You don't have to say anything. You could just show up. Hey, I'm coming with food, and give that person the space to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then just don't. Just watch TV. Just, play card games. Do something except
Yeah.
for being in that space. And that moment, that reprieve that they get by just being in your presence sometimes is enough. It really is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people um, don't do that because we're so inundated with social media that we think if we just DM or call or like we need to be in other people's presence. We need.
Yeah.
I'm big on touch, so I'm a hugger. So with consent. I always want to ask first, but I like giving someone a hug and just
Mm-hmm.
not saying anything, just feeling them melt into you. And sometimes
Yeah.
they need that. They just need that, or grabbing someone's hand and just giving them, that really quick like
Mm-hmm.
just tug, like okay, I'm here. That's it. Like that's it. It doesn't even have to be anything big. It's just I'm here. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's key. And I want to bring it back to the self-expression piece, because being present, like you said, I think, some of these questions that I have are around writing, which there's a space for that as well. But I also think just the verbal communication, face to face, just there's no hiding,
No.
for a lot of us. And it could be a black woman thing, it could be a woman thing. My face will tell on me before I could even my words could even catch up.
Yes.
Right. And my mom, she would be, what? she could read me down. And
Yes.
so it's like, oh my goodness. And so that's important to have. But I think a lot of us again know that, and just it's shameful. I want to deal with the shame. I don't know why it keeps coming up, just because
Mhm.
I know people, and I know that that can be what's stopping them from getting them the help that they need, is that shame. How do we help people deal with that shame so that they can express themselves, and they can help improve their mental health and improve their life overall?
I think the one thing that has to do with shame is other people have to express themselves, because shame is something that for a lot of people will make you just fold into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to have like those rebels, those revolutionaries that will just express, like, yo, this is what happened to me. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
giving you enough space to know so that it's okay for you to say, yeah, that happened to me too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't deal with very well, especially, in our culture. It's like what happens in the home stays in the home. And
Yeah.
so, because of that, we have been told that if you go outside of the home and you say things happen, you are bringing shame on the whole family. So, it's not
Okay.
just on you, it's like the family is now put up for judgment instead
Mm-hmm.
of dealing with, like, no, like, we need to deal with this as a family. I see that now more where people are being generational curse breakers. And
Yeah.
I see that with millennials a lot. Like, they're like, I'm not doing this shit. No, I'm not coming to
Yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner because you got
Period.
Uncle Earl there. And we all know what happened with Uncle Earl. Or I'm not coming to this because you talk about my weight when I come to the house. Like, immediately, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you got big. And that's something that a lot of people are struggling with. And it's always like when you go to those places, you know that your body gets tense, you know that your mind
Mm-hmm.
starts racing, you know that you have anxiety, and it's a whole production even to get to that point. And then you get the shame on top of that. And so
Yeah.
it's like your mind, you're in that fight or flight response or even freeze mode. And that's not any way to live. Like, I think within that space for the shame, you really have to think about how, if I was talking to someone, if I was talking to my younger version of myself, I always go back to that. Would
Mm-hmm.
they be proud of me and the choices that I am making right now, knowing what I know? Would
Mm-hmm.
they be proud? Or would they feel like I've let them down because I've allowed shame to bring on this fear? And I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, fear only is there because you haven't named it. Like, when you name it, you can't,
Mm-hmm.
it can't harm you anymore because you put a name to it, you said it out loud, you've expressed yourself. And so there's no more fear in that shame. Like, you signed the light on it. And so
Mm-hmm.
you can't have it be a part of your life anymore. And once you let that go, you have the freedom to do, whatever you want with however you want. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's something that a lot of us have to work through and work on, is just getting that. I don't really care what you think about me in your system. I call
Mm-hmm.
it the F word, but I'm not doing it for here. But I'm like, you have to get that in your system
Yeah.
and let it fly free. Because
Yeah.
if not for you, then it's for someone else who's watching you, or for your younger self. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
always there for you.
Yeah. No, that's so important. And dang, what was I gonna say? It's programmed, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like it's been programmed into us
Oh yeah.
to have this shame. Shame on you for, like you said, the red lipstick, the red nails. That's too
Listen.
fast, fast little girl. All these different things that we've heard over time. And especially the older women. I'm thinking about just the older women in my family circle and how they grew up, and how initially, the church, the black church, was a space for community. I know I grew up in Orange County, California, and Lake Elsinore, California as well, which is Southern California. And there were 5 black people at my school. We didn't live in a predominantly, we were in the suburbs. So
Yep.
a lot of, oh, you talk like you're white. Well, shit, that's what I grew up around. I mean, I can't, what? I can't help it. But at the same time, it's like,
we would go to the Black church that was 3 hours down the way because it was important for my mom to have us around the Black community and to be, learning about God and having a relationship with God and stuff like that. Um, but my mom, she grew up in an era where there were Black people in her neighborhood. And just over time, the Black people got moved out of their neighborhood. Hispanics and Asians came in. Where she grew up now, it was called Santa Ana, California. Now people, Santana, California, it has a little, that little Mexican twang and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, I get it. I'm definitely a millennial, and so I understand the progression of things. But like you said, there's just some stuff. What? I gotta go. I told my dad the other night when things started to get a little quick. Hey, dad, I'm out. Love you. I can't be in this energy like this no more. Y'all done drained my energy. I'm ready to go get in the bed. I gotta go shower, rinse the day off me, and get in bed. I'm done. I don't even think he comprehended everything I had said, but I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I might see you on Sunday, maybe, or the next day. But I'm gonna see you when I see you. That kind of thing. And that's what it was. We were talking about mental health last night because I was sharing with him. I said, yeah. I said I have a Black male friend who just, I don't know what it was. He just started sharing everything that he had ever been through, and all I could do was sit and listen and just be present. At the end of it, he said, "Well, thank you for listening." I said, "Oh, you're so welcome." I said, "I don't got no." He's like, "I know you ain't got nothing to say, ain't got shit to say, bro, but you're welcome." I said, "That's." And my friends know that. They know, like, the people that know me know I go through these cycles. I said, this is just where I'm at. I don't know what you want to call it. It's not winter. It doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I'm hibernating. It might be just spring. I'm just here. Like, I'm just here to just be with you. And that's about it. I said, maybe the wisdom will come later, whatever. But, and I was telling my dad, I said, yeah, I said, a lot of Black men even struggle with expressing themselves. I said, Dad, you're a Pisces, so what you're going to do is you're going to cry and you're going to tell me how you feel. So I said, not you. You're not the Black men I'm talking about. I said, but there are Black men out there. And I'm like, Dad, what is that? And he said, it's the programming. He's like, it's the programming. As Black men, we're taught how to operate a certain way. We got to be this, we got to be that. And I said, is that a burden? He said, some of it is a burden, but some of it is like, we don't mind it. Like, we wear that as a badge of honor to take care of our family, to take care of the women in our circle, X, Y, and Z. He said, but at the same time, it can be off balance. And I said, oh, okay. I said, is that what it is? Is it off balance? Is there not enough care? Is it that the men are taking or trying to, or they want to take care of the women in their village, and there's not enough care being shown back? Is it one-sided? And he said, oftentimes it can be one-sided. I said, well, do you think that's because the women or the woman in your life has gone through trauma and they need more energy, and you don't know how to care for them? And he was like, I don't know. I said, well, shit, I don't know either, but we just talking and having a drink. I said, I don't know either. And so I asked you the question, what do you think it is? Like, it's obviously a dynamic, there's layers to this thing, right? And like I said, it all can come from, how you're raised and how, you're programmed and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's a shame now because social media has run rampant with this whole gender war thing.
Yeah.
And I think that it is, unfortunately, what it comes from a lot of is that we tell girls that they mature faster, but then we give boys leadership roles. And I'm just like, that don't even make sense. And I taught before, like I was in education for almost 10 years. And so I saw it on the ground floor. Like I've taught everything from second grade all the way up to sixth grade. And so to see how the girls were more outgoing and, a lot of them were taller than the boys. And just being in that space when they were younger, and then as they start to get older and get into middle school, it sort of shifts. And the boys are more outgoing and they are more risk takers. And my girls are kind of, like they want to be calm, and they want, some of them, not all of them, but they don't want to deal with certain things anymore. And I saw that shift even with how some people talk to the girls and how they talk to the boys. And, if a girl is too talkative, then they'll say, oh, they're this and they're that, but they'll say they're bossy, or they'll use different words that really don't mean anything well, don't mean good. And then you have the boys, and they're like, oh, they are take charge, they're leaders, and they're like, but the girls do the same thing. Like they just talk more, but they do the same thing. And I've watched it, and how, like, I remember one time I had this one little girl, I used to call her Miss Prissy, because she just knew. She was like, I have my napkin, and I'm going to put my she had some type of snack and put it here. And then she cleaned the table off. She had a little wet wipe. She cleaned. Wow. And I was like, girl, this is a snack time. Like, what? And the boys had the same thing. And the boys were like, here, throwing stuff. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. But the girls sat really quietly, got their things together, and had like a whole picnic on the table. Each girl brought their own thing. The boys were just like, can we come over? No. Because you should have paid attention. You should have listened. And I left them because I'm like, this is dynamic. They need to work out. But I saw that often. Like, I saw how my girls were really able to pick up on different concepts and allow themselves to be like, okay, I need to do this, where my boys would just go full steam ahead. Like, I'm going to try it. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just going to work out. And I think that we sort of don't give our girls the space to do that anymore. I don't even know if we did before either, because we know how a lot of them, like you said, were raised to be homemakers. But you can't do that anymore, because everything is, you can't live off of one income.
Yeah.
You just can't. And we've never been able to do that anyway. Like, Black women were not given that space. And so I kind of feel like our Black men right now are fighting a losing battle, because I feel like sometimes they want to be like our white counterparts. And I know I'm probably going to get some shade for this when it comes to how they're living, but it's not the same thing, because we are a very communal people. So we have to deal in community. Like, we know that we cannot make it without each other. And you can't do that. And I see, even when dating, I saw a lot of men who were like, I'm a traditional, and I'm like, who's tradition? Because like, what are you saying? Your mother was a homemaker and your daddy went to work. What are you saying? Did your father marry your mother and you lived in this two income house or one income household where your mother didn't go to work? No, you didn't do none of that, sir. So how are you now traditional? And I understand wanting to have something that you feel like will make you feel more established, but that's not how this works for a lot of people. Like, that's not, a lot of them, their grandmothers were the head of the household. No matter how you say it, your grandma was the head, your grandpa gave her money and went on about his business, and your mom, your meemaw or your pawpaw, they lived two separate lives.
Yeah. Wow.
But
that's true. And it's so funny while you were talking, I'm thinking, the other day I was hanging out, I call them the 60 and plus club, my daddy and his friends, we had all went to lunch, and I kind of just sat back, and the women, baby, what you want to order? Okay, they're looking at it. Okay, so what else do you want? What side do you want? Okay, here come the waitress. I'll have da 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 da. He'll have da 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 da.
Yep.
And my dad and my uncle, both, they just sitting back, letting the ladies handle it. You ain't gonna speak? No, my woman got it. Oh yeah.
No, okay. Not at all.
And these women, they don't give it. I'm taking care of my man. I said, okay, I love it in the 60 plus club. But I also told them, I said, look, you guys are so cool. Y'all know who you are. I said, I love that. It wasn't, the women, they were talking shit to the guys. What? Yes, ma'am. Okay. And it ain't no talking back. I'm going to just let her talk, I said, okay, wow. I was like, this is kind of cool to witness. I'm just there soaking it all in. But I think that's just how they are. That was the time that they were in. I said, I don't see that in my age group. I'm 34. I don't see that in the relationships that I've witnessed around my age group. It's not it's not really like that. I think it's almost the other way around. It's, oh,
Mhm.
my man, does for me. And I enjoy that. I appreciate that. I appreciate seeing women be loved by their men. But I'm just like, oh, when did the dynamic switch? And how is that working? It seems to be working well for some. And then for others, I know a lot of women feel like, oh no, he's trying to control me. Like, and it's so crazy. Like you said, the whole sex sex war is insane. But I think find what works for you. Like
Yeah.
that's what my dad didn't look. Reed, whatever's gonna work for you is gonna work for you. But you have to figure out what it is. Maybe write it down, figure out what it is, try it, and see what happens. But what works for someone might not work for you, especially
Mm-mm.
as an African American, especially. And so I don't know.
I agree. I agree. You know, it's one thing I said. I was talking to somebody, and I was like, a lot of men are submissive, but they've been told that they have to be a dominant in their person.
Oh.
And because a lot of them, if you just told them what to do, they'll just do it. Which is why
Yeah.
you see them on TikTok. You see a lot of women. This is across diaspora, across race,
Mm-hmm.
where they talk about something incompetence, weaponizing competence. And I'm like,
Yeah.
to me, this means that a lot of these men are very submissive men, but they have been told that they have to be like this leader of their pack. But they are fine with you telling them what to do. A lot of them be like, well, you didn't tell me to do that. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, if y'all would just step up, just be honest. Like, I really don't want to do anything. I would rather you take control and I just fall back and put myself into what I need to be in to whatever. If you need strength, if you need me to open jar, you need me to do whatever, I'll do that. But you take
Mm-hmm.
control over whatever needs to be happening. I think a lot of people will be way more happier as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. See, I'm the type, look, I do a lot of leadership in business.
Yes.
I'd be ready for a man to be like, look, honey, you do so, you take control. I done 12
Tired.
hours out of the day, I'm a leader. I don't want to be a leader at home. Like
Yeah.
I would tell, the guys that I'm dating, look, I don't want to be a leader at home. So is this going to work? Are you capable of leading? Are you capable of being a creative thinker and solving problems without me having to tell you? Can you do that? Is
Mm-hmm.
that hard? Does that feel like a chore to you? Are you in a mentally healthy
It's true.
state where you can do that? And they be looking at me like, oh, you're different. Because I know what I need. Because I know that if I don't say this, you're going to be looking at me to do everything. And I know that 12
Mm-mm.
hours out of the day, I'm already leading. I want to be able to come home and be in my sanctuary where I don't have to lead, where I can step in the role. I'm a great mom. I'm a great woman. I know that I could be in the position and
Mm-hmm.
and do the damn thing. I said, but if you want me, shit, it might not work out. We're gonna bump heads. And so then it's
Exactly.
like, well, sometimes we don't make it past the first date because it's not that.
You're not compatible. And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And I
Yeah.
love that you said mentally healthy, because that's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal. Like, that's a huge
Absolutely.
deal. A huge deal. A lot of them want to be in that dominant space, but they don't realize how much it's not just about control. It's about, are you supporting me in every aspect of my life? Or do
Mm-hmm.
you just want to be like, you wearing that? You can't wear that. I told you not to. And it's like,
Yeah.
sir, what else do you got? What else? I need something else. That's
Yeah.
cute and all, but what else do you have?
Right, 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 right. Oh my gosh. What? Okay. So what else then? We're talking about, so I want to kind of talk about again, self-expression, emotional release,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think a lot of times when we're expressing ourselves, it's like an emotional thing. And emotions, I don't think emotions are good or bad. I think that at some point maybe it could be in the way that we were programmed, that we have defined emotions to be good and bad. And so
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that a little bit about, oh, I don't release this emotion of sadness, or it's hard for me to cry, or I'm never mad. I'm always happy. And just, okay, that's not really expressing yourself. That's not really releasing your emotions. Let's talk about that.
I think that that's something, now what we see a lot of is they're talking about autoimmune disorders, and how when you hold those feelings inside, especially the anger and the rage, your body processes that in the only way it can, and that's by attacking itself. Like that's just what it is. And we know that. Like there's data for that. And especially like for us, for Black women, there's weathering. And so the little things that happen to us on a daily basis, the rage, the anger that we feel, the microaggressions that happen to us, they take a toll on us. Like they do. And you have to have an outlet. Like if you don't have an outlet, you are going to come up short. You just are in life because you are not giving yourself the space to be like, yes, I'm mad as shit. Like I'm mad. I am angry at these things that are happening to me. And then how are you going to transmute that energy? I think that's one of the biggest things that people get lost in. I don't want to be seen as this angry Black person, but then I am mad. Like stuff is messed up. And I don't know how to do that. So I always tell people, have a movement is one of the biggest things I always tell people to do. Like movement allows you to release those emotions, to get it out. If that's beating up a pillow, if that is going to a rage cage or whatever they call it, if that is writing, if that is, dance, if that is, I don't know, anything that allows you to just express that in a healthy way. Like you don't want to be banging walls and breaking your hands. Like we're past that. You got to do something a little bit different now. Like we're a little bit gone from that. But how can you take that energy and move it into something else? Like, can you create? Like there are some people who they say when they get their heart broken, they make amazing songs because they're taking that energy and they're turning it into something which was heartbreaking, but we all get to enjoy because they are expressing all of that. Maybe they can't cry, but they can put it on paper and be like, these are my tears that I am expressing. And I always tell people to cry. Like sometimes you need a good cry. Like you need a good cry because it releases those hormones that you are holding on to. Like it actually releases the hormones and you get to just relax. Your body gets to relax. And I always tell people also, like, take a deep breath. Like you are holding your breath sometimes when you're angry or your shoulders up here. So relax your body and get to that point where you can say, this happened to me. I'm angry about it, but it doesn't dictate what is going to happen or I'm going to harm someone or harm myself.
Yeah. No, that's so important. Movement is definitely important. I know. I'm trying to think, what do I do when I'm angry? I normally hold it in.
No, we can't.
I normally hold it in maybe until I get to somewhere where I feel like I can let it out. You know, I think that's it. But I think that also comes just from trauma.
Yeah.
I know how, or at least I think about it. Like I will assess the situation. Like if I show that I'm angry right now, this could go 100 different ways.
Yes.
I don't like none of them. So I'm going to go home and scribble on a piece of paper and then take deep breaths, maybe go for a walk. That might be fine. I know that that's for me, but in the moment, I'm working on that. I will say I'm working on that. Like, okay, we gotta make it the hell up out of here so we can go express this anger elsewhere. But I will say also, one of the things that I did notice, it had just got so bad. One day I do have like chronic headaches and I haven't been able to pinpoint it. It doesn't just come from like my menstrual cycle and things like that. But one of the things my cousin told me is it could just be stress.
Yeah.
And we started to unpack that. Just chronic stress, used to being stressed to the point of you're just numb to it and it starts impacting your body. And for me, that was showing up as these chronic headaches. And one day I must have had a migraine for 3 days. I was ready to stick my head through a wall. And I called my cousin. I said, like, I'm losing like my cognitive abilities. Like I'm trying to work on a project. I can't even form a sentence good, writing it down. Like, help me, talk to me, tell me something. Like I'm just not okay. And she said, okay. She gave me like a little visualization task to do with her. I said, okay, boom, I'm gonna do it. And it worked. It worked. And then she said, okay, how did that go? I said, okay, I feel better. She said, stop taking on other people's crap. let that shit go, please. Like,
Yes.
don't get back to that space. She's like, you were so stressed out, man. She's like, I was really worried about you. We don't live close. So she was
Mm.
like, I can't come there and be there with you. Like, please don't. And that was her time to talk to me then when I was in a better space to hear it. Like, hey, you're taking on this, you're taking on that. You have your own stuff going on. You haven't even taken care of yourself. Have you showered? Did you brush your teeth today? Did you eat? It was no, 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 no. Okay, so take care of yourself. Stop the stress. Express your emotions. You're not expressing yourself. So now it's impacting your body. But it became because I'm so used to being stressed. Like, I'm so used to this. How I don't even feel stressed, but I be stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And it became okay. Now I got to start working on that. What are stressors? Let me look at what are the things that could be stressing me out. I didn't have a job. I was living with family. That I was taking on their stress. Just being in maybe a community or an environment that was not caring for myself.
Yep.
I'm always worried about other people just because I'm a nurturer. I don't mind caring for other people, but I have to take care of myself first and foremost. But again, was raised in that environment of you put others first, you care for
Yeah.
others first. And a lot of that's just in the Black community. We're taught to care for others first, especially as women.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like unlearning that, man, that was a year ago. I'm like you said, I'm doing better today because I got tired. I got tired of the headaches. Now if I get a headache, it's more so, okay, have you drink water? What's up with your sodium levels? You ain't really had that much salt. You need a little bit of salt in your diet. Like now it's that and it's okay, it's a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's not we ain't going 3 days with a migraine no more. But yeah, it just it totally impacts when you're not expressing your emotion. It shows up in your body for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you gotta cuss people out. I do that all the time. Sometimes
Okay.
you just gotta cuss people out. And it don't even matter at times. You just like,
Yeah.
I just gotta read you for a second and then I'm be gone. I don't even care how you feel. I just gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be sitting here thinking about this 5 years down the road, like, damn, I really should have cussed them out whole
Yeah.
time. And I did.
Okay. Yeah. And I know I know, I'm Team Kendrick, but Drake said, be nice for what? Be nice for what? What is the reason? What is the reason? Like, be nice for what? Why do you have to be nice?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it all comes with perception and not being judged. We want to be perceived as someone who's nice. But
Yes.
I even tell my daughter, I said, sometimes I said, being nice is good. I said, but be kind.
That part.
Be kind. Don't be
That part.
nice is like a doormat. Being nice, people will use that shit against you to try and manipulate you. Oh, I thought you were nice. Da, da, da. I said, girl, I've been there. I said,
Mm-hmm.
and people would try to say, oh, really, you're mean. I'm not mean. I have boundaries now. And you're not liking it. You're not liking that you can no longer manipulate me because I'm calling you out on your crap. 1 + 1 is 2. It's not 4, like you're trying to have me to believe. And you
Yes.
don't like that. I'm awakened to your crap. And it's like, okay, when I started coming off with that, it's, oh, you're mean. These being mean is not bad. I could be mean. That's fine. I said, according to you, being mean is something bad. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with being mean in your eyes. I had a friend
That part.
say, sometimes you're a villain in somebody else's story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like there's a villain in your story. Sometimes you the villain.
Yep.
Sometimes you're going to be the catalyst in somebody else's story for them to change. And without you expressing yourself the way that you need to, like you said, sometimes you got to cuss somebody out so that they can wake up and get their self together. And so it's like there's room for all of it. There's
Yeah.
room for all of it for sure.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So so I do want to talk about writing then. What are your thoughts about expressing yourself through writing, and how can that be therapeutic for other people?
I have journals out the ass. Like I have at least
Mm.
4 journals in my bed right now. And then I have authored a journal. I feel that journaling is one, it's a way that you can track progress. So I have journals that when I was going through all of the things I was going through, I will never open those journals again. I'm
Yeah.
leaving them there. And I probably won't ever touch them. They're in a space. So if someone was to come back and read them, they could see like all of the things that happened and then where I am now. And even now I have like a joy journal, which allows me to just write down everything that has been amazing. So if I ever need a moment to go back and be like, I'm tired, like this shit is getting crazy, I can still go back and be like, but look at all of the amazing things that have happened. So I think it's a way to like, one, beat depression, not automatically get out of depression, but it's a way to be in that space where you start to maybe doubt yourself. You can go back and say, oh my goodness, like I remember, and I could still have these feelings of when this happened and go back to that moment because these are my words. This is what happened and I can remember that. And so I think that writing for anybody, I always tell people like, even if you can't write it, maybe do a video journal and then it could be transcribed, you know, like so whatever. But I think that writing is such a helpful way to keep a diary. So you can always go back and just see. Like you can't go forward sometimes if you don't go back and see, like, I know this pattern. I know this has happened before. I can see it because I wrote it down. So I know because I've dealt with this before, how I dealt with it, and it's come back now. So now I need to figure out a different way to do this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a writer. I always tell people write it out, write it down, put it in a journal, burn it if you have to, do
That
what you
part.
got to do to express yourself. Don't let nobody stop you because at the end of the day, it's for you.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day, it's for you. And I always think for me, I'm like, I notice that the healing that I do on myself, it ends up being a blessing for other people. Like, I think about this time last year, ain't no way in hell I'm doing a podcast like this. I was not ready. I was not ready. I was still, my comfort zone was author interviews, and I was okay with that. And that served its purpose. People got help. It was comfortable for me. But I had to go through my things so that I could come back and show up and say, hey, this is what I went through. I've gone through it. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about self-expression, spirituality, all the things that we're talking about on this podcast. And to say, I've been there, it's like, maybe in this season I don't have the words for people, but I'm like, I'm still expressing myself. Like this morning I had some alone time. My daughter's at a sleepover and I just was up reflecting like I normally do. And I said, you know what? Because I was thinking about that, telling my dad, I don't have no advice for him. I'm just in this area where I don't have nothing else to say. I said, but I am saying something. It's coming out in my podcast. It's coming out in the books that I'm writing through me and my daughter. We co-author and illustrate children's books. I'm an author, and so it's coming out. It's just not coming out the way that I'm used to it coming out. It's not coming out immediately. I have no words in the moment, but listen to my podcast. I might say something that might pique your interest or help you, or read one of my books. I might have said something there. But if you're looking for instant gratification, I ain't got it. Like, that's not it for me right now. And just being able to say that right now, as I'm talking to you, like, oh, okay, like that's making sense for me. And I think that people also can be aware that sometimes the way that you express yourself changes. And noticing that and being okay with that can also set you free as well.
Yeah. Reinvention.
Yeah. And that's how we started. And so we'll wrap it up right there. Is there anything else? This has been a meaningful conversation for sure. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close?
One thing that I always end like my live videos with is you are your longest and most expensive relationship. So any money or time that you spend on being your favorite version of yourself is never money or time wasted.
That's it for today's check-in. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, hit that subscribe or follow button, and let's keep growing together. Hey, and if you're tuning in on YouTube, drop your after emoji in the comments and tell me what shifted for you. I'll see you next time on Miss Win Checking In, where creativity is a pathway to wellness.